Hi, this is Peggy van de Plassche. I speak and write about microdosing psilocybin. So today we have not one, but two wonderful guests. That doesn't happen often. They're not just guests, they're guides. They were my guides. So we have Gary and Rob and Gary, depending on how you want to say that. They are co-founders of the Journeyman Collective. They are based in Kelowna, Canada. And they organize luxurious psychedelic journeys using psilocybin. And I was super fortunate to go on a journey with Rob and Gary last September. So thank you so much for being here with us today. That's so cool to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Peggy. It's great.
Okay, so let's get started right away. Tell us more about you. Obviously, your personal life and your career is intertwined, especially with a career that is more a purpose really than a career. Tell us more about Gary, Rob, and the Journeyman Collective.
Where to start? I think the most important question has always been, when did you start your personal development program? When did you start working on yourself? And I can go back to my first time in theater school when I was 17 years old. In that program, it was a program and it was a deprogramming of the old ways of doing and thinking that your parents sort of ingrained in school, that ingrained, put you in a box, and this is how you're supposed to behave and respond. Well, with theater, they are there to sort of take it apart and find the true you and do the inner work so you can be the best performer, presenting yourself into the world. So I did 2 years of that and took some time off, and I'll really scale this down. And then I traveled, the world, explored the world, and at the same time exploring inner self. And then I ventured back into another theater program in England. And in that time, I also was introduced to a program called the Alexander Technique, more of a personal development, inner growth program. And I really understood what that was all about, the mind, body, spirit connection. And I really took hold of that and moved forward on a daily practice and a lifetime practice of working with the Alexander Technique. And from there, I was also introduced to healing and all different spirituality modalities, metaphysical teachings. I've been part of a Unity organization. We'll call it a Unity Spiritual Center. And that was where I discovered metaphysical teaching and really worked on my spirit side of development. And also went through a healing touch program through Vancouver General Hospital with the nurses and really tapped into my healing qualities. And so overall, this led us to a path to where we are now on the journey of the Journeyman Collective. And I had never experienced psychedelics or mushrooms ever before until about 6 years ago. And Rob actually went on, I'll get Rob to tell his story, but he went on his first journey. But when he came back, I was like, I noticed quite a shift in his energy and his overall being and his happiness. And I thought, well, God, if he can shift some shit, maybe I can. It's like, because I was a bit depressed. My mother lived with us. She had passed away. And so I was going through a grieving period and I didn't know how to shake it. I thought I had all the tools in the toolkit. But there's this one tool I just didn't have. And I thought, okay, I spoke to the medicine man that assisted us during our journey process. And he says, this would work. And sure enough, it did. It shifted me out of grief. It gave me clarity and vision for my future forward. And in that vision was shown to us that this is what we're supposed to bring to the world, that Rob and Gary are supposed to be a collective and assist others through a shamanic psychedelic journey to release all those pains and traumas and dramas and depression and anxiety. The list goes on, but that's sort of a little synopsis of where I started and where I am now.
And obviously you've teamed up over the years. So tell us more about your own journey and we can combine all this great power together.
Totally. Yeah. So I'll say I grew up in a bit of with a scientific mind and very curious about science. Went through that path through several university degrees and worked in corporate, and was quite locked into that scientific realm. And it was like, this is all I need. And then the universe presented a bit of an awakening to me about 20 years ago. And science wasn't able to explain what was going on with me. And so I met a spiritual teacher, started working with that spiritual teacher, and she helped me realize that there was more to life than just the logical mind. And there was so much more to the mystery of life. And so I just became like an insatiable student of metaphysical teachings. Personal and personal development as well was something that I always worked with. And in that I'll say reawakening process, because I remember that as a child, I did have some things that were that I was aware of, and I could feel and sense energy, but didn't really have anyone around me to sort of like guide me to use the gifts that I was given. So I sort of like I dampened them down until the right time. And so I had started my own coaching business and life, career, spirituality coaching, and working with people all over the world. And then I just felt like there was something within me that wasn't quite out in the forefront, and I couldn't quite like language what was going on, but I could just sense this other energy within me, that there was something more that I hadn't discovered yet about myself and about what I'm really here to do. And it was interesting, like as Gary said, Gary's mom lived with us, and for 3.5 years before she passed away or transitioned. And for me, it was the first time that I lived with someone and they were no longer there. So every day was like a constant reminder of like, poof, that person's gone. And culturally, I don't think we have the proper tools to move through grief and move through the depression that accompanies that. And there's also anxiety as well that accompanied that. So anxiety, grief, and depression, like we all lose people. And that was like, I think a big push for us to move into this direction. And so I was called into a journey. And again, I just knew that there was something more within me. And one of the biggest things that I came out of that was I found my joy again, my joy for life, my joy for what I'm here to do. And it was resolute, like there was a definiteness in it. And I would even say there was like a visceral knowing that, oh, this is the next step. So it was sort of adding on, and it was all about simply just starting. And we started training, obviously, through the medicine man that we had worked with. And then the big piece that we noted was that it's not just about the actual shamanic journey. It's about bridging our understanding of what takes place in that journey. And then how do we filter that through? How do we bring that through? How do we bring that knowledge and information that we acquire and access during the journey? How do we bring that through into our everyday life? And how do we apply how do we apply it in our relationships, and how do we apply it into our businesses? And so that's a big part of what we really focused on, was helping people integrate, and not just integrate, but apply that which you've learned in the journey into your life and your business. So that I think one of the overarching pieces that we've witnessed is that, what does every human being get up to do when they wake up in the morning? They're getting up typically to go to work or to work on their own business. And so part of what came through in our whole creation of the Journeyman Collective is, let's actually help people be more conscious of who they are. And then as a result, that impacts their business and helps their business be conscious. So it's really helping people know how they can navigate themselves and navigate more effortlessly in a purposeful and passionate way in business.
So, and thank you. I think that's very important for people to understand the context and the fact that, okay, you didn't get up one morning and decided you're gonna, guide psilocybin journey. So I have two questions, and maybe you can weave your answers in the question. So the first question is, what is a journey? I think most people who are listening today, they're like, okay, what are these guys talking about? Walk me through the steps. And the second thing is, we're talking about shaman, people who are watching the video. For the people listening, they're not seeing that, but you're dressed in shirt and t-shirt. You're not the typical, okay, what is a shaman? That's not the image people have usually. So if you could tell us more about what would be a journey, a bit what I've done with you, but also what does it mean to be a contemporary shaman or someone who's guiding such journey?
Yeah, totally. So what I'm going to do is I'll start with the last question first. And because the overarching aspect of what is a shaman is one who helps another heal. And so it's basically helping another person illuminate what is unknown in their energetic field, in their being. And so there, again, we're not attached to the labels because that shaman or medicine man is just one part of what we actually do. So there's a number of different hats that we wear throughout the whole entire experience. And it's a journey with the Journeyman Collective is working with the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. So the embodiment piece is really massive. And a quick synopsis of what we bring people through is we get to know our people that we're guiding with. Is there a mutually beneficial fit here where we feel called to really bring this person through this experience? And so there's a preparation phase that people have to come through. And that's typically a minimum of 4 weeks. And then we spend 4 full days in person. And it's from the time you wake up to the time that you go to bed every night. We're with you, we're working with you. And then the most challenging part is the actual integration part. So it's weaving the actual information that was received in the journey through your awareness, how you're thinking, how you're feeling, into your life, into your relationships, and into your business. So that's a very overarching aspect. And the piece that we like to really put forward for people is that a journey, a shamanic journey, a plant medicine journey, it can be deeply uncomfortable. And in that discomfort of essentially just facing self, working with the energy that's been stored in the proverbial baggage that we're holding on to, that process that we guide people through is one that's deeply luxurious, so that you can be luxuriated in comfort, so that you can go into some of the discomfort within.
Yes, that's I can relate to that. So and I like 2 pieces you mentioned, the integration, because it doesn't finish when the 4-day trip. On the contrary, it's like you're turning a page. The new journey starts now with the integration. And it was extremely uncomfortable, let's be honest. And the fact that I was so comfortable in my surrounding, to your point, made the experience more palatable, more pleasant. I'm a strong believer of doing this type of journey every 12, 18 months. And I microdose in the meantime psilocybin as well. I think that's a great, at least for me right now, I think that's really a great rhythm. I would like to dig a little bit into the 4 days, because people who are listening are still wondering, what am I doing with these guys? So the first month, we have weekly calls. We're discussing what's happening with us. You have a lot of great videos. That's super helpful. Then you get on the plane, which is what I did. And Gary and Rob comes to pick you up at the airport. So tell us what's happening there.
So once we pick you up, you're with us for 4 days, as you know. The first day is getting the lay of the land, getting you settled into the home, getting comfortable in our presence because we've only seen you online. And then there'll be a small meal. And that usually that afternoon, we would begin going into ceremony. And we could say like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So for people who listen who don't know what a ceremony is, it's going to mean taking
psilocybin.
Exactly.
Yes, definitely. So you're going through a ritual. You're working with us and the medicine, and then you're going to digest the medicine. So we'll be clear, this is, you're going to eat it. We provide gourmet chocolate, or we make it ourselves with chocolate. And once you have digested the psilocybin, there is a little waiting period that you're resting into self. You're getting into a meditative state. You're laying down on a mat, and that you're going to rest into the journey. And then we don't know how quick the medicine works with each individual. Sometimes it's very quick, and sometimes it can take a little bit longer. So I'd say 20 to 30, sometimes 40. Some people are 10 minutes and they're in. And once you're in the journey, we are there to energetically support you all the way through, which could be 3 to 5 to 6 hours, depending on the person, or longer. We've had longer.
It was longer for me.
When I'm in a journey, it's your discovery of self, and there's we don't know what's going on the inside, but we know that we can support you 100% all the way through the process.
So we guide people from the inside. So, and that's, I think, an imperative part, that like as more and more centers are coming online, this is something that I would want your viewers to ask the people that they're speaking with is your guide guiding you from the inside? Because that takes a certain level of attunement of that individual to actually connect into. And that's where the brilliant value comes from in the guidance process. So we're guiding you from the inside. We're taking care of you on the outside in a luxurious setting, but we're on a hike on the inside, and we're there beside you to help you along the way. And the reason why that's so vitally important is that helps with the integration process, so that we can pull on those threads, ask different questions about, hey, what was this about, or what was this about? It's not about it's about the individual having that greater understanding so they can apply it. Or maybe it's even about letting something go. If you've had a loved one in your life and they're no longer with you, there are pieces, there are always sort of threads that are attached. And so we help a lot of people with the grief process, with depression, with anxiety. But then again, like you already said, like after the journey, that's where we can, in the integration process, because we're with you from the prep, in the in-person and the integration, we can continue to pull on things that were shown to you in your journey and help you remember back into them and understand them and apply them in your life.
Well, and the integration already starts the second day. So the first day we do the ceremony, the second day we already start discussing what was shown, what happened. I remember for me, my first journey was extremely emotional. A lot of things came up from my brother's passing when I was 17. So we're not talking about things that happened yesterday, but things I never dealt with. It was it was not just insightful, it was freeing. So I remember the second day we spent some time talking about what I've seen, you helping me making sense of it. We also went for a little hike in order to kind of clean up a bit the system, and we had delicious meal as well that were made with love, and then we're going into the second ceremony. So there is the first ceremony, the first day. The second day is already a day of integration, rest, digestion, if I can say that, a lot of journaling, and then is the second ceremony, the third day.
And that's always there's a releasing of expectations that the second ceremony is going to be the same as the first, and it's virtually impossible. And it's always different, because you as an individual, you've cleared away the old.
Yes.
You've sort of let go of some of the baggage. So there's another layer of discovery of self to take place. Again, we're with you through that whole entire experience. And we're there guiding you the whole entire time. So we're right beside you energetically, and that's to really help you have a greater understanding of why you've come here, and what your purpose, what your passion, what your different pieces of what you're here for will come through for you. So that guidance is really, really important. And the embodiment piece as well. So on the last day, so Gary works with people as well, almost every single day with Alexander technique lessons. And that really allows people to be in their body fully, because we have a society that is essentially running around like we all know what a headless chicken may look like, but we think it's the reverse. There's a lot of bodiless people just with their heads running around. So the almost like just coming fully into the body and knowing that it's fully safe to be here as someone who's deeply connected to something new, and being able to have that create something in life. So every journey is unique. Every person's creation of what they're creating after the journey is going to be unique. It's about being fully human.
And I really like the point you're making with embodying, because at the end of the day, everyone who's going in this journey, and maybe I should have mentioned, you're mainly working with entrepreneurs and executives, people with, I would say, a certain level of achievement already in their career. And we're all doing that to come back to our life and to be better and to do better. It's not just a 4-day experience and then you come back and you're just going back to whatever you were before. People want transformation, and that's really the point. So one of the questions I'm sure people who are listening will be interested is, what type of results, knowing that obviously it's not about, okay, things change overnight and you became Superman because you had some mushrooms, otherwise I'll be already a superwoman and you would be obviously Superman. What result have you seen? Maybe that could be a good example for people to understand better what it means to do that type of journey with you.
There's so many. There's profound physical healing that takes place with people, whereby they release old pains, old traumas, and as a result, they may start walking differently or running differently. And that may sound very basic, but what that does is that releases pain, so that you're no longer in pain.
Exactly.
Emotionally, people are happier. They have less anxiety, less depression in their life. So the quagmire, the cloud of heaviness has been lifted, and people have a deeper connection with self. And because of that deeper connection with self, there's a greater capacity to have loving relationships with people. So a number of people do report that their sex life is actually like reignited in a great way.
So that is definitely a selling point.
yeah. So that's not training we provide. But,
Well, that might be a product expansion for the future. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
The last point I was going to say is that people on the actual like spiritual side, with that knowing of what their purpose is and knowing what their passion is, they're more apt to make decisions in business that are in alignment. And so they're like, we all know that money makes the world go round, but when people are consciously engaged in their life and their business, then they're living their passion, they're living their purpose. And maybe your listeners are already doing that, but there's an amplification process that can take place for where you're already at. And as a result, your decisions change. And as a result, like, I know one of our clients, he was like, yeah, I recognize that I was only in this company for the money. And now I'm no longer willing to do that. I'm only willing to focus on the passionate piece, the purposeful piece. And guess what? The profits increase.
Yeah, and that's so that's two things I want to also discuss before the end, because I think that's important, considering you have a lot of entrepreneurs and executive. There's a bit of this idea of ROI. So what does it mean? And what I've seen personally, and obviously some of your past clients as well, is this ability, to your point, to make decisions, the clarity, but also the ability to take action without second guessing, and to be very efficient. So, you know, like I think that's a point that's super, super important, because you're absolutely right. It's aligned with a purpose, which is absolutely amazing. We all want that, but it's also being better at business. I would say almost regardless of the purpose. And I think that's something that's important. Do you want to say a couple of words on that, maybe, on what you've seen and where people have been really benefiting as well in their day-to-day life, in their business?
So it's interesting, because we were just talking about this as well. Like, I think there's a cultural paradigm whereby people receive information and they want more information, and they want more information, and they want more information, and then they'll make a decision. And it's almost like, to create an image, there's almost like this idea that the little monkey mind is sitting at the keyboard obtaining more and more data, and then they move into decision. And what happens, I think, with this experience is that you can receive a few pieces of information, not novels, and move into decision, because you know this is the driver and this is the passenger. And when you're connected with this, there's a greater level of intelligence that the individual is attuned to and processing, so that you don't take forever to actually chew on all of the information and then make the decision. You have a connection to a visceral knowing of the path of least resistance and ease and flow, that, oh, this is the way. I'm not supposed to go this way. This is the best decision that I'm going to move into. So that the clarity helps with that whole process. So I would almost say there's like a quickening that takes place with people.
Yeah. And
it's like an overthinking out of decision. Let me think about it. And I'll think about it, and I'll think about it, and something else will come in, and I'll think about that, and I'll think about that. Well, they forgot about what they were thinking about for the first thing. So it's like, oh, that's too late. It's gone by. I won't act on that. And maybe that was what they should have been acting on to begin with. Sometimes the thinking gets in the way. So the idea is realizing, oh, that habit of thinking no longer serves me. This new way of being and thinking is much quicker and healthier and less time consuming.
Exactly. I think the intuition aspect of it, to use a word that maybe people are more familiar with, is you can hear your intuition more clearly, and you're more comfortable acting on it, but also the results are way better. I've seen it so many times in my career since we went on a journey together, where I was going to a path and I'm like, seems very difficult. I don't know, doesn't make sense. Before, I would have just like plowed through it and spend hours, and now I'm just like, doesn't make sense. And then the day after, can do it that way, and I get the same result in a fraction of the time, if not a better result. So I think that's very important. I can't remember which extremely successful entrepreneur was talking about mixing intuition with the skills, business skills, and that's the most successful entrepreneur. But you need to be able to hear and trust it. And I think the journey really helped with that. The last question I have is about transformation. We spoke about, you know, the journey. What I've been seeing more and more is, well, first, people are afraid of psychedelics. So maybe you want to address that a little bit. But also people are afraid that, oh my God, I'm going to a journey with these guys and I come back and I divorce, I leave my job and I move to Hawaii to sell baskets on the beach. So do you want to maybe address these two fears before we stop? The fear of transforming into something totally random, but also the fear of psychedelics themselves.
So the transformation fear, you got to look at it as like, so you want to transform into your higher self or your true self. So you're opening the door to, okay, I'm going to explore who I truly am. You get there, you see who you truly are, and that makes you even happier now. Now you look back and you reflect, it's like, oh, that wasn't a mundane, happy, mundane feeling. It's like, so it's up to you. You still have a choice. You have a choice to go back to this world that's not making you as happy as this new world, who you truly are supposed to be. So the fear is like, all these things are running in the background. Am I going to divorce my wife or my husband? Am I going to move out? Am I going to sell baskets on the beach? If those things are in your mind, those are things you already want to do. The medicine is just going to show you clarity on the vision for your future.
Oh, that's interesting.
Nothing to be afraid of. You've opened the door to explore, to grow. And this is what we're here to grow and be creative. And if that means that I'm done with this story, then you have to be okay to make that decision to move forward.
But you're making that decision consciously. You're not like,
that's right. Exactly.
That's a great way of putting it. Thank you.
My hair is tinkling.
And with the fear of the psychedelics, it's a mushroom that's been put on the planet for a reason. And if we look at nature, what does it do in nature? It decomposes that which is no longer necessary. It decomposes old fallen trees, leaves, and it does so in a way that it redistributes that nutrients out into the forest to give birth to the next round of trees, the next season. And that's what humanity goes through life with a fear of letting go. And all you're doing is you're just letting go of that which no longer serves you in an actual journey. And I would even say humanity has become fearful of like an actual initiation process that takes place, because essentially that's what you came through. You went through an initiation of letting go of some of the old so that you could move forward. And as a society, we've come away from that. So yesteryear, when people lived in tribes, they'd go see the medicine man, and then they'd walk across the village and they would still be in the actual village that they journeyed in. But because of our cultural paradigm that we're in right now, that's where the fear of like, oh, when I leave the journey center from Rob and Gary, like what's really going to happen? There's just going to be a better version of you living your life, and you still get to choose what you want. And if you really like, it's not about you moving to a mountaintop and living an impoverished life. The universe is a friendly place to be. The universe is abundant. The universe is prosperous. And so we can actually be more prosperous. We can be more abundant and live in harmony with a higher order with respect to the universal laws. And that's all the mushroom is doing. And with us, it's not just about the mushroom. It's also, you're working with the medicine of everything Gary's grown through in his life, everything that I've grown through in my life, and we've packaged it all up to really guide you through that whole entire process and be with you the whole entire way through the journey. And even after the journey, we have clients we speak with like 2, 3, 4, 5 years after, and there's still pieces of the journey that they're integrating.
For sure.
So,
as you're talking, I got a moment, that this fear of psychedelic is really the projections. So anyway, that will be for part 2. I feel like, we need a part 2, we need a follow-up. I'm sure we're going to get questions as well, so maybe we can do a part 2 where you address more of that. But Gary, Rob, Gary, thank you so much for taking the time. I will put the link to the Journeyman Collective in the comments for people who are interested. I highly recommend to go on a journey. I was very lucky to do a solo journey, so I had both Rob and Gary for myself alone for 4 days, and I really recommend it. But maybe go with your spouse, go with your brother. It will be an amazing experience. So thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time. It was lovely to see you and so insightful for everyone, I'm sure.
Thank you again for this opportunity. This is brilliant.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.